In today's training, we will be talking about what a prior written notice is. More specifically, we will be looking at the new forms in SACE and discuss how to insert a prior written notice into the team meeting comments section of the IEP. When we look at what a prior written notice is, it's important to note that a prior written notice serves as a vehicle of communication between schools and families. It is very important that parents are always well informed about whatever action the school intends to take or intends to not take or deny regarding their child. Through the use of a prior written notice, the school can ensure that parents are up to date on what a school is proposing or refusing to do as early as possible, so that parents can participate in the school's proposed actions or they may respond to its refusals. Prior written notices are important. The parental rights under IDEA include the right to receive a prior written notice from the school each time that the school proposes to take or refuses to take certain actions with respect to a child on an IEP. Overall, a prior written notice is written documentation that memorializes what a school team intends to do. The prior written notice serves as acceptance or initiation of a change or denial of a requested change by the parents. Below are some examples of times in which a prior written notice may be warranted. A prior written notice must contain several components, including a comprehensive description of the proposed action or refused action by the school system. According to IDEA, the notice must include, number 1, a description of the action proposed or refused by the school and an explanation of why the school proposes or refuses to take the action. Number 2, a description of each evaluation procedure, assessment, record, or report that the school used as a basis for their decision. Basically, what data did the school team look at in order to make their decision? Number 3, a description of other options that the IEP team considered and the reasons why those options were rejected. And number 4, a description of other factors that might be relevant to the school's proposal or refusal. This slide gives you some examples of when a prior written notice might be used. Looking at the examples, you can see that a prior written notice is typically used when a school team is proposing a set of actions or changes to an IEP for a student, or when a school IEP team is refusing a proposed action or a request made by parents on the student's IEP. The following form is the prior written notice that we have been using in SACE. It is available in the IEP section, and it is a standalone document. In the past, your program specialist would fill in the prior written notice after doing investigation and making contact with the sites. New to SACE is the ability to put a prior written notice embedded into the team meeting comments section of the IEP. This will streamline the process of prior written notices and allow school teams to actually respond to a parent's request immediately and within the written document of the IEP. Here is an example of a way to prior written notice a parent about a student graduating. It has the 4 sections that are required for a prior written notice and a narrative of each section. In order to embed these into SACE, you would take the information from each section and place it in the corresponding SACE form that we will look at on the next page. Over the next 2 slides, we will go over how to embed a prior written notice in the team meeting comments section. Once the notes for the IEP have been completed, you may go below and begin to fill out the prior written notice section. You need to click whether you are proposing or refusing a requested action. In the example given below, we have proposed special education services for Johnny to end on June 14th of 2017 at the time of his graduation. Then we have checked our reasons for the proposed action and included that Johnny is on track to graduate with a signed diploma. The IEP team met and developed a summary of the performance that Johnny will have for future use. He is scheduled to graduate on June 4th of 2017, at which time the district will no longer be responsible for Johnny's educational program. So in these 2 sections, we provided parents with clear written documentation that we are proposing an action, and our proposed action is to end IEP services at the time that Johnny graduates. The remaining 3 sections go deeper into the rationale as to why the school team is proposing the following actions. In our example, we can see that the team proposes that Johnny will graduate with his typical peers, and the evaluation procedures, tests, records, and reports that they used to decide this are noted. It says that the IEP team reviewed Johnny's existing data to include current status/progress on IEP goals, transition services, activities, grades, transcripts, and daily work. So here it tells the parents what they looked at in order to make their decision or their proposal. The next section talks about the other things that they looked at that helped them come up with their proposal. In this section, it says that the IEP team considered continuing his services. After discussing the district's graduation requirements and Johnny's current functioning, it was agreed that all requirements have been met and the mandatory number of credits received and transition skills mastered. So this section is basically giving the alternate option, and the alternate option would be for Johnny to not graduate. This section shows that the team considered this alternate action but rejected it, and they gave the reasons why: that it's not necessary, that Johnny has the appropriate number of credits and has mastered his transition skills and is ready to graduate. The final section just has other factors that might be relevant to the proposal or refusal that the team is initiating. So in this case, it says that on January 12th of 2017, you were informed that all rights would transfer to Johnny when he turns 18. We discussed at the meeting in April 15th of 2017 that all rights would transfer and that special education notices would be provided to Johnny after this date. They will continue to be provided to you as the parent as well. So this is more of just an FYI section, or a section that contains other relevant information. So in addition to Johnny graduating, Johnny will be turning 18, and they note the date that he will turn 18. They also remind parents that correspondence after that date will go home to Johnny, but that as a courtesy, they will also continue to send information home to parents. So these two pieces are coupled together: the graduation piece that they are proposing and the additional information that Johnny will also be turning 18. Here is a second example of when a school team may decide to include a prior written notice to parents. This has to do with an amendment meeting where the team talked about changing placements of a student due to their behavior. Section A goes over the explanation of why the district is proposing this action, and it notes that during Anita's amendment meeting held in October, the team decided to change Anita's placement to a SEAL classroom until Anita's behavioral data shows she is ready to return to SDC. Rather than her current placement of SDC, the team decided that a comprehensive behavioral supports in the SEAL program would better meet Anita's behavioral needs. The next section is the description of the other options that the team considered. The team considered providing all services Anita needed, including counseling, intensive behavioral supports as outlined by her BIP, etc., in her current self-contained classroom within the school setting. But the team agreed that due to Anita's emotional and behavioral needs, the current SDC class cannot adequately provide the level of interventions, counseling, and behavioral management techniques necessary to meet her unique needs. So basically, this section shows that they looked at other options and they looked at keeping Anita in her current placement, but gives the rationale as to why that would not be an appropriate suggestion. Continuing with this example, the next section looks at what things were considered in order to propose this action. It noted that the primary basis for this change of placement is Anita's disruptive and self-injurious behaviors, which have increased in frequency and intensity within the school and home setting over the past 3 months. Increased counseling time, increased academic assistance, and a behavior intervention plan have not been effective in teaching Anita appropriate techniques in dealing with her frustration. So this section basically proves that Anita needs this new placement, and it discusses the data and considerations that the team used and are supporting the new suggested placement in a SEAL program. The last section is a description of the other factors that might be relevant to this proposal or refusal of action. It notes that until which time the placement to the SEAL program is finalized, the district will provide services to Anita within the self-contained classroom, not to exceed 1 week. And IA will accompany Anita anytime the student leaves the self-contained classroom. So in this last section, even though this doesn't have to do with the new proposed placement, it talks about the plan for the interim and what the school team agrees to do while they're waiting to transition Anita over to the new SEAL placement. As we wrap up our presentation today, we just have a few things that we want you to remember when you're talking about prior written notices. Firstly, Most parts of an IEP do not require a prior written notice, and the team summary notes are sufficient. Most of the discussions within an IEP team meeting are recorded in the notes, and it is a back and forth conversation between the school team and the parents, and the collaboration is documented within these notes. So small changes, changes to accommodations, other things like that do not require a prior written notice. However, it's also important to remember when a significant change has happened, for example, maybe the start or stop of a service, or the initiation of or refusal of a service, or of a placement, things such as that, then a prior written notice would be given to parents. This way we are clear about what has changed in the IEP as a part of the child's FAPE. So there is no uncertainty that something is changing, and something maybe more major is changing, and that we are documenting in writing what we are changing and why we are changing it. In addition, again, a prior written notice would also be a way to reject a parent's request. So if a parent is requesting something and the team is continually denying that request, then the team would want to put in a prior written notice form what they are rejecting and their reasons for rejecting the parent's request. If you've completed this tutorial and you still have lingering questions, there are several ways to get your questions answered. Firstly, this year in our CIT trainings, we will be going over the prior written notice section and how it is now embedded in the team comment notes. If you are attending these trainings, you will get more detailed information. Or if a site rep is attending these trainings, please make sure that you make contact with them to get more information about prior written notices. Secondly, a good resource is if you have a school department chair or another site special education resource, such as a school psychologist. They often have good background information on prior written notices and might be a good source of support for you. And finally, you can always reach out to your program specialist. They can help walk you through this process as you gain more comfort in writing prior written notices as a school team.